what if the ultimate weapon, right, like a device prophesied by the gods to stop an impending apocalypse?
Right.
What if it wasn't forged by some legendary hero, but by two terrified parents who literally just wanted to save their unborn baby?
Oh, man. That's the hook of the century right there.
Right. Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a massive stack of campaign notes to unpack for you today.
We really do.
And we are focusing entirely on the intense, just incredibly psychologically heavy events of Session 5.
Yeah, Session 5 it's a lot.
It is a lot. Our mission today is to take these raw notes, which cover the immediate aftermath of the brutal battle at the Guard, and basically explore what happens when an adventuring party just physically and mentally fractures.
Yeah, shatters completely.
Exactly. We're going to look at how trauma manifests in a world driven by magic, and how uncovering a hidden family history beneath an active volcano can it completely rewrites a hero's future.
It's an absolute masterclass in the thematic weight of consequences,
Yeah.
honestly. Because these sources, they don't just give us a sequence of fantasy events. They provide this magnifying glass on the compounding toll that heroism takes on the human psyche.
Right, because you survive the immediate physical danger of the swords and the spells.
Only to find out that the existential threats are basically just getting warmed up.
Exactly. So let's set the stage for you listening at home. Imagine you have just survived this infernally manipulated battle at a place called Nomengard.
Yeah.
You're battered, you're exhausted, but instead of breathing a sigh of relief and, celebrating with your team,
Which is what you'd expect.
right, instead of that, your group splinters. And the catalyst for this fracture is a character named Boris.
Like Boris.
So Boris is a cleric of fate and luck.
Yeah.
But in the absolute chaos of this battle, he accidentally kills a gnome healer named Zook.
Oh, it's so tragic.
It is.
Yeah.
And according to the notes, Zook wasn't just a healer, he was Nomengard's third best fighter.
Yeah, which is a massive blow to a small community like that.
Huge. So I want to understand the psychology here. Boris decides he has to stay behind to make reparations, physically separating himself from the party. Why is this specific tragedy breaking him so completely?
Well, to understand Boris's reaction, you have to look at the mechanics of his faith. Right? As a cleric of fate, his entire worldview is built on the premise that there is a grand design.
Right. Everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. You assume everything is guided by divine hands.
Yeah.
But friendly fire.
Oh.
That is the absolute antithesis of fate. It's the chaotic, ugly, random reality of combat.
Well, yeah.
It strips away that comforting illusion of divine orchestration. So staying behind to heal the remaining gnomes, it isn't just a noble gesture for Boris.
Yeah.
No, it's a desperate psychological triage. He is trying to reclaim some sense of control and moral order in a universe that just proved it can be ruthlessly, pointlessly random.
Think about it like it's like a mathematician who suddenly discovers that 2 + 2 = 5.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
The foundational rule of his universe just broke. And to make matters worse, the universe isn't even giving the rest of the party time to process this.
Of course not.
No. While Boris stays behind, the characters Vitrovia and Whiffer head back to the town of Phandalin to deliver this auto-loading crossbow.
Right.
And along the way, Vitrovia receives an urgent transmission through her sending stone. Now, as I understand it, a sending stone functions basically like an arcane two-way walkie-talkie. Right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so on the other end is Harbin Wester, the townmaster of Phandalin, and he is completely panicked because he claims the party has been gone for 4 days.
Yeah.
But the party has only experienced 2 days.
Exactly.
How does that math work? What kind of physics are at play here?
Well, that is the collateral damage of dealing with devils, honestly. It's not standard physics, it's a planar shift. During the battle, the devil Raphael essentially pulled the party into a temporary pocket dimension.
Right, to broadcast their fight?
Yeah, to broadcast it on infernal reality TV, this twisted show called Devil Riders.
Which is just wild.
It is wild. But when you leave the material plane, the relativity of time warps. Raphael wasn't just playing with their location.
He was playing with their timeline.
Exactly.
That is terrifying. You literally lose 2 days of your life to a demon's entertainment broadcast.
Yeah, and the implications for you, the listener, to consider are massive. The world does not hit pause when you are dealing with your trauma.
Right.
The actions of gods and devils have compounding, tangible consequences on the mortal plane. Phandalin is burning through its precious time, utterly undefended, while its heroes are trapped in a pocket of warped reality.
Man. And the tragedy of that warped timeline isn't just that they lost 2 days, it's that another party member, Red Air, is actively deteriorating.
Well, yeah, yeah.
And suddenly they realize they don't have the luxury of time to slowly heal him. According to the notes, Red Air is in a coma-like state.
Right.
When they get him to Phandalin, they consult Adabra Gwyn, this local apothecary, and she diagnoses that Red Air's physical body is completely intact.
But
his mind is an absolute battlefield. She says it could take weeks for him to resolve this internal war.
Which they don't have.
Exactly. Which forces Vitrovia into a desperate gamble. She places Rodir's comatose body inside the pocket dimension of her bag of holding.
Which is so risky.
It is a monumental risk because the notes mention the bag is filled with pure quote-unquote moon energy.
Yeah.
Break that down for me. What is actually happening inside that bag?
So this requires a look at Vitrovia's specific magical discipline. She's a tiefling druid from the Circle of the Moon.
Okay.
Now, tieflings inherently carry an ancestral connection to infernal demonic lineages, right?
Right, of course.
But as a moon druid, Vitrovia channels the pure, restorative, natural magic of the celestial bodies.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and she's on this highly secretive personal mission to restore her destroyed homelands. So she has cultivated the inside of this bag of holding into a pristine sanctuary of purifying moon energy.
Wow. So she is essentially putting a person who is currently infested with demons into her clean room.
Precisely. Radier is currently housing two incredibly dark entities.
Right.
You've got an ancient spirit of vengeance named Zarathos and a demon monk personality known as Tsohg.
So putting Radier in that bag, it's like trying to run an infernal intensive care unit inside a pristine endangered greenhouse.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The purifying lunar magic might stabilize his physical form, but introducing raw, chaotic hellfire.
It risks everything.
It risks permanently corrupting Vitrovia's sanctuary and, by extension, her entire life's mission.
That is so intense. And that external clash of energies perfectly mirrors what is happening inside Radier's mind.
Oh, definitely.
The notes describe his internal mental landscape as a pop-up circus tent.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's such a bizarre and brilliant manifestation of psychological fragmentation.
Oh, really is.
Radier previously thought he was the only personality. He was suppressing these other entities just to survive day to day. But now the mask is entirely off.
Yeah, the coma has stripped away his conscious defenses. So inside this chaotic circus tent, you have Kid Radier, which is the manifestation of his deeply buried, vulnerable innocence. And Kid Radier is currently sharing space with Tsohg, the demon monk.
Just a terrifying roommate situation.
Exactly. And actually, Tsohg has taken the reins of the physical body in the real world, though the body's too battered to wake up.
Okay. Wow.
And mediating this absolute nightmare is Zarathos.
Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance.
Yep.
See, the notes say Zarathos is the one who suggests the three of them need an agreement, like a come-together moment.
Right.
He argues that the physical body will heal much slower if the mind remains fractured. But I have to push back on this.
Oh,
yeah. Is a literal spirit of vengeance actually interested in Radier achieving mental wellness and integration? Or is this just a parasitic survival instinct?
Well, it's a fascinating look at symbiotic relationships in fantasy ecosystems, honestly.
Right.
You have to remember, Zarathos is an entity of wrath, but he's ancient, and he's highly intelligent. He has inhabited legendary heroes before, like Lady Alagondar.
Right, he knows the ropes.
Exactly. He understands the mechanics of possession. A broken, comatose vessel is completely useless to him. Vengeance requires intent and action.
Which a coma patient can't provide.
Neither of which a coma patient can provide.
So he needs the kid to wake up so he can drive the car again?
In a sense, yes. It's a marriage of ultimate convenience.
Wow.
But the psychological insight here is profound. To save the physical body, the deeply suppressed innocence of Kid Radier has to sit at a table and negotiate with the hellfire of Zarathos.
They can't just compartmentalize their trauma anymore.
No, they're forced to integrate it.
Yeah.
Healing requires accepting the darkest parts of your psyche.
Man, that's heavy. But while Vitrovia is managing this incredibly delicate spiritual triage in her moon bag, Whiffer is left dealing with the physical artifacts they retrieved from Nomengard.
Right, the bright blade gear.
Exactly. He is inspecting his new equipment, engineered by the gnomes Fibblestub and Dabblebob, which is tied to his family's arcane legacy.
Yeah.
And he finds this tiny, barely readable stamp on the gear that says Proto-CX-Karag Lab. Mm-hmm. So Whiffer takes this to a dwarven prospector named Dazzlin Greyshard, who translates the word Karag. And it turns out Karag is just the dwarvish word for volcano.
Right.
So Daslin points Whiffer toward a logger camp at the base of the Neverwinter volcano.
Which is a masterful pivot in the narrative. We transition from internal psychological survival directly into an active archaeological investigation.
Yes.
But before they rush off to the volcano, the campaign notes give us this vivid, grounding look at the town of Phandalin.
I'm glad you brought that up because I want to pause on Phandalin for a second. The contrast here is just amazing.
It is.
The notes highlight Elmar Barthen, a local provisioner whose main inventory seems to be nothing but rope.
Just rope.
Just rope. And we see his daughter, Thistle, just horsing around out of pure boredom.
Yeah.
And then we meet Bajak Lau. Bajak is described as a former pirate who runs the local brothel and theater.
Quite the resume.
Right, and he seems to be acting as this highly unconventional mentor to young Thistle. It's such a weird, vibrant slice of life. Why spend time on a retired pirate in a landlocked logging town when there are demons and volcanoes to deal with?
Because it grounds the epic stakes in a mundane reality.
Okay.
Imagine you're living in your own hometown, just trying to pay rent and buy groceries, completely unaware that there's a ticking arcane time bomb beneath your feet.
Wow, yeah.
Phandalin is a town of rope sellers and retired pirates just trying to scrape by. They are the collateral damage in the games of gods and devils.
Right.
By showing us Bajak Lau and Thistle, the narrative answers the question. Who suffers if the heroes fail? It gives the listener a necessary breather and establishes the fragile humanity of the world right before we take the plunge into the fire.
And what a plunge it is. So Whiffer and Mitrovia travel to the logger camp at the base of the mountain.
Yep.
When they arrive, they find Tibor Wester, who, fun fact, used to be a commander in Baldur's Gate and is now trying to fund a local militia.
Right.
But right now, Tibor is heavily injured, barricaded inside the main cabin, and completely surrounded by Ankegs.
Right. And for the listener who might not be familiar, Ankegs are these massive, burrowing insectoid monsters.
Nasty things.
Oh, totally. They're heavily armored, they spit acid, and crucially, they are drawn to intense heat sources.
Right. So they dispatch the Ankegs and secure the cabin, and inside they discover a hidden hatch built into the floor.
Yeah.
And here is where the synergy of bloodline magic kicks in. Whiffer's bright blade sword charm begins to glow in tandem with the hatch.
Mm-hmm.
How does that mechanism work? Is the door reading his DNA?
Well, it's a form of arcane biometrics. In high magic settings, powerful families often weave their literal bloodline into their enchantments.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The magic in the hatch is attuned to the specific arcane frequency of the bright blade lineage, which is resonating through the charm Whiffer carries.
So it's like a key fob.
Basically, when those frequencies match, the ward drops. It literally responds to who he is, revealing the entrance to the abandoned Brightblade Iron X Research and Development Lab.
The Karag lab.
The Karag Lab.
So they descend into this lab, and this is where the historical logs finally drop the curtain on Whiffer's origins.
Yeah, this part is heavy.
It really is. Inside, they find a secured chest containing a prototype energy sword, along with a trove of research and video logs left behind by Whiffer's parents, Ricard Ironton and Mila Brightblade.
Right.
Reading through these chronological logs is an emotional gut punch. We watch their descent from ambitious inventors into absolute desperation.
So sad.
In Day 7, Ricard notes that they're dipping heavily into company funds. He mentions that Brightblade Iron X was supposed to be a company that did good in the world, but here they are, hiding under a mountain, building a weapon.
Yeah.
And he specifically credits Mila as the true genius, the brains of the entire operation.
You can really track the scientific progression, but also the escalating ecological cost in these logs.
Right.
By Day 33, Ricard records that he is successfully wielding the energy blade, but he isn't powering it with the battery. He's using the geothermal heat of the volcano itself.
That sounds dangerous.
Very. Drawing that kind of raw, localized heat begins to destabilize the surrounding crust. He realizes he needs a smaller power source, a stabilizer, so he locks the weapon's activation sequence behind something called a bright key.
Let's break down that bright key. It sounds like a safety feature on a firearm, but like much more volatile.
Yeah, think of it as a cross between an arcane biometric lock and a nuclear control rod.
Okay, wow.
Without the bright key, the sword would likely draw too much geothermal energy and cause a localized eruption, or simply immolate the user. It's the classic dilemma of the arcane engineer. They have achieved unimaginable power, but they cannot control the fallout.
And the fallout isn't just geological, it's psychological.
Yeah.
Day 66 is where the true tragedy reveals itself. Ricard writes about his deep, overwhelming regret over a visit to the god Savras a year prior.
Right, Savras.
Savras is the deity of divination and fate. Ricard says he and Mila just wanted to grow their successful company. They wanted to build things. But instead, they were, quote, shouldered with knowledge of our supposed role in some crazy prophecy.
Yeah.
He calls them slaves to this knowledge.
That entry completely recontextualizes Whiffer's entire existence.
Oh, 100%.
Imagine growing up your whole life believing you were an outcast. Whiffer thought he was abandoned by corporate absentee parents who cared more about profit than their son.
Right.
But these logs reveal they were essentially drafted into a divine Cold War against their will. They didn't abandon him for a boardroom. They were terrified, desperate engineers trying to build a dragon slayer to stop an impending apocalypse that a god forced them to foresee.
It makes you wonder how much free will anyone actually has when the gods decide to share their visions.
Exactly.
And the environment itself corroborates their struggle. In one of Mela's video logs, she mentions that their progress is constantly being slowed down and harassed by, wait for it, unghegs.
Yeah.
The exact same monsters Whiffer and Vitrovia just had to fight to get into the cabin.
See, the environment remembers what people forget.
Ooh, I like that.
Drawing that massive amount of geothermal heat cooled the deeper crust and altered the localized temperature gradients, creating a perfect nesting ground for ankegs decades ago.
Wow.
The ecological disruption caused by their arcane experiments is still rippling through the region today. Ultimately, the volcanic instability forced Mila and Ricard to abandon the Karag lab entirely and move their research to a final, undisclosed location called Lab Uslik.
But right before they abandon the lab, we get the pregnancy log.
Oh, this part.
Yeah. Mila finds out she is pregnant with Whiffer, and Ricard's reaction in the journal, it is this heartbreaking mix of absolute profound joy and abject terror.
Yeah.
He writes, I don't want this child to be the promised sacrifice.
It just strips away all the mythos of the grand fantasy adventure, doesn't it?
Totally.
In these logs, they are not legendary stoic heroes embracing their destiny. They are just terrified parents trying to outrun fate. Ricard acknowledges that he hopes their work saves the Sword Coast, but he makes it crystal clear that his primary overriding motivation is to keep his family safe at all costs.
And then, at the very end of this heavy, emotionally crushing log, Ricard adds a brief postscript.
I love this part.
He notes that Mila tried to take a swing with the prototype energy sword they just built, and he writes, quote, can't hit shit, what a whiffer.
This is so brilliant.
I mean, let's really look at this. Whiffer has spent his whole life carrying this name. He's the prophesied champion, destined to wield this ultimate arcane superweapon, the fused soul blade.
Yeah.
The weight of the world is on his shoulders, and his name literally comes from his dad jokingly calling his mom a bad sword swinger.
Yep.
It is so hilariously, beautifully mundane.
It's the ultimate grounding detail. To the gods of this world, that child might be a prophesied champion on a chessboard. But to Ricard and Mila, that name was an inside joke between a husband and wife.
Yeah.
It was a fleeting moment of levity and humanity in the middle of a terrifying apocalyptic stress test. It anchors Whiffer's grand, terrifying destiny in the very real, very human love of his parents.
It changes everything about how he has to view his path forward.
Definitely.
We've covered an incredible density of material from Session 5 today. We started by looking at Boris, a man whose faith in fate was shattered by the random guilt of friendly fire.
Yeah, that was rough.
And we saw how the chaotic nature of the world and the warped timelines of devils, they just refuse to give heroes time to heal.
We examined Vitrovia risking her sacred lunar sanctuary to save Redir, while Redir's fragmented mind, caught between vulnerable innocence, vengeance, and demonic logic, was forced to negotiate a bitter truce just to keep the host body alive.
And we followed Whiffer beneath an active volcano, deciphering ancient dwarvish and bypassing bloodline wards, only to find the tragic, loving reality of his parents' desperate research.
Right.
They weren't corporate sellouts, they were just parents fighting a prophecy. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. Think about Whiffer's journey. He grew up feeling like a pawn left behind by his family. But these logs reveal the exact opposite.
Yeah, a complete 180.
His parents were actively trying to defy a prophecy of the gods just to keep him safe from it. So how does it change a hero when they realize their grand, epic destiny is exactly what their parents fought and died to prevent them from fulfilling?
That's a great question.
Does embracing the prophecy mean honoring their legacy or failing their final wish?
That is the ultimate burden of knowledge. Once you see the strings of fate, you have to decide if you are going to let them control you, cut them entirely, or finally learn how to play them yourself.
We started today talking about surviving a brutal physical battle, only to find the psychological threats were just beginning. And it turns out the deepest wounds aren't made by enemy swords, but by the weight of the truths we uncover about ourselves. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.